Good morning, everybody. I'm Courtney Keebler, and I serve as the chair of the Foundation Education Committee. And I want to thank you for attending today's Women's Breakfast. Before we get started, I wanted to thank our sponsors, Tia Chambers with Allied Universal, Lori Hayes with America's Corporate Building Maintenance, and Evan Hicks with Texas Roof Management. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. We truly appreciate your support. I'd also like to thank a couple more individuals for their hard work in putting today's seminar together. Cherie, Evan, and Pam, who are part of the Education Committee. Without them, we couldn't have done this. And then second, I'd like to thank the Community Service Committee, who's helping us collect the items for the Genesis Women's Shelter. If you do have items that you haven't given us, we are collecting them back there in the corner, by the way. So while the past year has been uncertain for everyone, it has proven incredibly difficult for women and children trapped in abusive homes. So every contribution, large and small, is important and appreciated. And also, if you didn't bring something, we do have the Amazon wish list on the registration. Okay, now onto the panel. So the topic of today's panel is how to break through to the next level. Before I turn the panel over to our moderator, Jacqueline Bird, I do want to address a couple things. So the Education Committee did speak at lengths to including men on the panel today. And we ultimately decided that we wanted to include men because of the topic. It is how to break through to the next level. And we work with men in the industry, so we wanted to include them. So I just wanted to address that, and I know we're going to get a lot out of the men that are on the panel, so I hope that you enjoy it. Maybe. I don't know about this one. We're not sure, not sold yet. So now, Jacqueline, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing today? Cold enough, huh? Outside too.
Yeah.
Well, as Courtney said, I'm Jacqueline Bird. I am with Link Logistics. I'm also the Secretary Treasurer for BOMA Greater Dallas. And today I'm really excited about the opportunity to moderate and have our panelists. Hello, ladies. Hello, men. So glad to have each of you here. As we get started, I'd like to ask each of our panelists if you would tell the audience your name, your title, what company you're with, and how you got started in the commercial real estate industry. And so I'll start with Hunter.
Hey everybody, I'm Hunter Lee. I'm with HPI. I'm the Dallas partner for our business here in Dallas. HPI is a 30-year-old real estate operating services company based in Austin, Texas. And we've been here in Dallas for almost 6 years now. So we have about 45 employees in Dallas. Courtney's one of our awesome teammates. And just excited to be with everybody this morning. I started in the real estate business in 2010. I worked for CBRE for 5 years before joining HPI about 5 years ago. So thanks for having me this morning.
I'm Kerry Mccampbell. I'm with Transwestern. I'm principal and senior vice president. I'm also a BOMA fellow, and I've been with Transwestern forever. And I celebrated my 35th anniversary at home because it was in June and everybody was home. So, and I started in the commercial real estate industry 35 years ago with Transwestern, and I started in the accounting group, and that has proved to be a good basis and a good foundation for my path.
And I am Mary Learson. I am managing principal at Holmansford Commercial. I've been there 16 years, and I actually got my start in the industry at Transwestern as a teenager. So how many years, I am not going to tell y'all how many years. But yeah, so I truly did start from the ground up, which is great about our industry, that it does allow that opportunity to start from the ground up.
My name is Ryan Rothker. I'm Senior Vice President of Welltower. Welltower is the largest owner of medical properties around the country in the United States, and we also have some properties internationally as well. I have been with Welltower for 2 years now, and like Mary and Kerry, I got my start in commercial real estate at a young age through accounting as well. Started in the accounting department and kind of just worked my way up from the ground level also. So I've been in commercial real estate for 25 years.
Awesome. Well, it's exciting that we have such tenured people who can really help us work our way through getting to the top. Listen, As we're beginning to talk, I first want to thank you all for joining us today. And I want to go to the questions. And with the questions, since Hunter started, the next time we'll start with Kerry. So
I got the easy one.
Yeah, you did.
I don't know.
What's your
There's
name?
a lot of around.
Well, that's a little hard for me at 7:30 in the morning.
Okay, so the first question is, each of you is at a professional level of vice president or higher. What has helped you get to the level you are? And what advice would you give those who are working to get to an executive level?
Just be engaged in your job. And when someone asks you to help do something, never say no. Never say, I don't want to do that. Or, I mean, no was never an acceptable answer when I started out. Many of you know CJ Butler, who I worked for. And when he said, you're moving downtown, okay, okay. So just never say no, and always be, you know, be present and be engaged, and you know, what did I did write some stuff down so that I couldn't stumble on it. And also be a really, really good resource to your asset manager owner. I mean, if you become invaluable to them is when you really become valuable.
I have a lot of the same
I got to be first.
I know. Yeah, I mean, there's no secret. It's hard work. I mean, it's long hours, a lot of long hours. I did things specifically just to get noticed. Again, that's volunteering for every extra project there can. Anytime my boss, specifically your boss, right, needs help, I was the first one to raise my hand with that. So again, trying to stand out, getting noticed, being a part of BOMA, entering buildings in Toby, any little thing that you can to get noticed, for sure. But hard work, there's no secret to success.
I would just add, from a career perspective, just remain focused, and you need to have endurance. Not everyone is cut out to be a leader. Not everyone wants to be a leader. So stay focused on what's important to you as a person, and set goals, set achievable goals that you can accomplish, and you have to get out of your comfort zone if you do want to step into a leadership position. You know, speaking in front of large audiences, leading teams of diverse people, you know, that's what makes you stand out, and that's what will help you accomplish and become an accomplished leader.
I'll echo just a lot of what everybody said, but I think in kind of a certain term, it's making yourself indispensable to those around you, right? It's making the people around you look really good and look really smart. Maybe they didn't have the answer to the question, but you slipped it to them on a sticky note on the conference call and made them look smarter than they are. And you know, early on in your career, you're always raising your hand saying, hey, can I do this? Can I help with this? I want to do more. Can I be a part of this meeting? Can I go to this meeting? And as you evolve and as you perform, right, all of a sudden, it's not can I do this, it's hey, I need you to do this because you're the only one that knows how to do it, and I'm counting on you to do it. And so as you prove yourself to be reliable and indispensable to those around you, I just think more and more will get added to your plate, and more opportunities will come your way.
That's great insight. I have another question for you. What were some of the challenges that you faced as you advanced, and how did you overcome them? Let's start.
Well, I was in a leadership position at a relatively young age, right? So my biggest challenge was myself. So I was now at a level of dealing with everyone that was older than me, and so I made the mistake of thinking just because they're older than me, they must be smarter than me, which is totally not true. So just trying, getting through that. I am the only female executive at my level, so I have, there are challenges. We are different. We're never going to think like a man, be like a man, and that's okay. So I had to come to terms with that they are going to treat me different because I am different, and that different doesn't mean they don't respect me, that they don't think I'm smart or I'm not valuable to it. So really my biggest challenge was myself because of just my age of being in a leadership position that I was in.
I mentioned endurance earlier, and kind of what I mean by that is you're not going to get every promotion. You are going to have setbacks in your career, and it's how you deal with those setbacks is what will help define you as a leader. And I had those setbacks when I worked for a company called Duke Realty, many of you might know as an industrial developer. They used to own a healthcare division that I worked in for 16 years. And I had setbacks where I was looked over for a promotion twice within 2 years, and I was in my early 30s. And, you know, it shook me a little bit, but I didn't let it hold me back permanently. I kept doing, like Hunter said, I kept doing what I needed to do and make myself indispensable to the company and to my, you know, my bosses. And, you know, you just gotta have endurance and overcome those obstacles when they're thrown at you.
It's never going to happen as fast as you think it should. I mean, I've never received a promotion where I walked out of the meeting and said, you know what, that happened a lot sooner than I was expecting. I've never gone through a comp discussion where I walked out and said, man, they paid me a lot more money than I thought they did. You know, like, so at some point you have to kind of condition your mind that it is going to be hard, right? It's hard for everybody. There's circumstances that make it easier for some than others, and there's dynamics that come into play, and situations are unique. But I think universally you have to accept the fact that it's going to be challenging, and those that advance kind of make up their mind that they're going to work hard if the sun is shining or if they're working in the mud, right? I mean, it's sometimes you have to continue to stay resolute and have just a ton of resolve to do your job when you get passed over for a promotion or when your bonus isn't as big as you are, because kind of those are the refining times in your career that you'll look back on and say, man, I was able to go on and do ABC because I kept my head down when I didn't think things were going necessarily as they should. So I think some of it is just patience and steadfastness, because it's never going to happen on your pace. And some of that's going to be, you know, time. Hey, you got to be here a little bit longer. But other things is just going to be like when folks are running big organizations, and I think most of you are part of larger organizations, they're just not necessarily thinking about your career development and your advancement all day, every day. You have to think about that all day, every day, right? And you can't count on somebody else to manage your career for you. And that brings about frustration, right? You want people to wake up, eat, sleep, and breathe. I would love to wake up and think about Courtney's career advancement all day, every day, but we have a lot we're trying to do, right? So, yeah, so we'll talk about that later. But like, right, so she has to manage her career and you know, tap me on the shoulder and ask for more and demand more, and that's how you expedite the pace.
And then in the same vein, I was going to say also, as women, sometimes we're afraid to speak up.
Absolutely.
And if you don't speak up for yourself, nobody else is going to do it. So, you know, it took me a long time to learn that. Don't be afraid to say, hey, you forgot about me, or that's not really what I was expecting. I mean, you can do it in a respectful way and a professional way, but don't be afraid to speak up for yourself and stick up for yourself, because if you don't do it, nobody is going to do it for you. So it's the only other piece of advice to add on to that.
This next question that I have, we'll go around robin, because each of you are in different at different companies, so you may have different views. And the question is, in the current economy, with a potential recession on the horizon, do you still see upper promotional movement occurring for employees?
At least at Welltower, absolutely. What's going to happen? What happened during COVID, because it set back a lot of commercial real estate companies. That's when the leaders identify, you know, who their future leaders are within the organization, and the bottom 10% get cut. So you got to make sure that you are, to everyone's point that we've already made, you're working smartly, you're focusing on the right things. You know, a lot of people perceive people in a position of leadership, they work all the time, and their career consumes them. I don't think that's the case anymore. That may have been the case back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, but today it's about working smarter. How can you blend your family life with your work life and focus and prioritize what's important at work and what's important at home? And you've got to maintain that balance as you promote through the ranks at a company. But I actually think it will open up opportunities for those who do excel within commercial real estate. If you are the best that you are at your job, you shouldn't have to worry about your job. The good people will be kept around.
I view it as this is the single greatest opportunity for advancement that I'll probably see in my career. There's never been a dislocation like this in our business and in an industry in general like we're facing right now, right? If you're really great, if you're really, really good at your job, you're going to shine. If you're not, you're going to be exposed, because it's really tough right now. There is no easy day. There's normally not in our business in property management, like it's a thankless job, but there is no easy day right now. It's, hey, tenant, you need to make this building safe for me to come back to. Okay, well we did. Well, we still don't want to come back, and we don't. And it's hard right now, right? But this creates opportunity. I view it as kind of like NBA free agency. Like this is the greatest time in my career to evaluate talent and go find great people. We had a socially distanced team meeting in September, and we had to do it because we have 45 people, and 12 of them started in the pandemic, and they've never met anybody, right? And for a couple of reasons, we've been fortunate to really rapidly grow our portfolio, and secondly, we've elevated talent where we needed to and where we had the opportunity to do so. And so I think it's an enormous opportunity for advancement because it's tough right now. If you're good, you'll shine.
I agree. I think it's exposed a lot of people, because our group has been relatively the same during the whole pandemic, but you can really tell who is shining and who is floundering in this pandemic. We have some people that are, not handling their group or their portfolio well, and we have other people that have jumped in, set up weekly meetings with their teams and staff, and really have taken a hold of, figuring out how to work at home and still get the job done. We've had some people nationally recognized by our owners because they're doing such a great job. So I absolutely think the cream is rising for this whole mess. It is a mess. And it's been amazing. It's been fun to step back and watch, and you get a good perspective. From wherever you are, home or work, or I'm at work, but I'm by myself, so it's kind of weird. But it's amazing, and I think we'll be seeing, come the first of the year, there'll be promotions due to the fact of how people have responded and reacted during this whole pandemic mess.
And looking at it from specifically a real estate perspective, clients are still starting to sell buildings, right? I'm doing 3 pitches right now, so to me, it's kind of dead for a while, but they're starting to see movement again, and with movement creates opportunities and growth. Specifically for us in Texas, lucky the industrial market is booming, and we cannot find enough industrial talent, specifically leadership for industrial. So even though I have an office background, that is my track to where I am today, is because they asked, can you do industrial? Will you be able to do it? And I did it. Again, when CJ says go downtown, you go downtown. When Scott Moore says, can you do industrial? You do it. But that was my fast track, to where I am today. And just keep in mind, if you're looking for an executive level, those leaders that can lead multiple product types, industrial, office, retail, those are going to be more invaluable employees. So just be willing to kind of think outside the box, not just pigeonhole yourself. If fast track is what you're looking for, you got to be willing to do really anything.
Well, leaders need to be able to adapt, right? And that's what we saw during the pandemic. Our entire Welltower team did not adapt as I would have liked them to adapt, working from home, doing virtual tours of the buildings. We still had a fair amount of people that just wanted it to not impact their life. And at the end of the day, you had to adapt. It's the same with your career. You have to adapt to your surroundings. And that's where, that's why I've identified new leaders on the Welltower team, is how they adapted to COVID, how they stepped up and thought creatively about how to best manage and maintain buildings and lease buildings virtually.
That's great. If I can add, just to show how this is really an opportunity. In my company, more than 90% of the people who are with our company were not with the company pre-COVID. Okay. So there's been a lot of hiring, and also many of the people who were with the company pre-COVID and post-COVID have found themselves rising in the company because of the opportunity that the shakeouts kind of provided. So it's definitely a great opportunity. I'm going to throw this one out for whoever wants to catch it and bat it around. The question is, what are key characteristics you should develop to keep advancing your career?
I can start on that. I was told a long time ago to commit yourself to constant self-education. And that means always keeping yourself current, keeping yourself educated, whether it's schooling or, a new software is out. Be the first one to jump in and master it. I mean, be the first one to, I can't think of any other things other than software and education, but just jump in there and do it, learn it. And, instead of saying, I don't want to learn that, or I'm not using that. So, like the carton wave that's come around, there's a lot of people that don't use it. Get in there and learn it. They have so many good tutorials. So just commit yourself, I think, just, completely educating yourself all the time. Don't ever, I know everything, because you don't. It's ever changing, as we know, with the pandemic.
I would say be consistently dependable.
True.
We need people that we are go-to people, right? That we know we give them an assignment and it's going to be done because they've proven themselves. And that sounds easy, but you'd be surprised how many people on a team are not consistently dependable. They choose kind of what they want to do and when they want to be great, but we need someone who's just consistently dependable. And probably another one, a good one, is just drama-free.
Absolutely.
We're adults, and I'm amazed at how much drama I have to deal with. And it speaks volumes, right? Because if you're looking to be a leader, then you will not be chosen if you are a drama queen. So, sorry.
Very true. Very true.
Or king.
We got some of
Don't
that
forget
too.
about the 2 pioneers of the.
That's right.
I still
That
can't figure out how they got in here.
I'm surprised no one's asked me to leave.
All right, well, the next question is, and I'm going to throw it out again for whoever wants to respond. What are some of the best resources for someone looking to advance in the commercial real estate industry?
I think it's, as much of this stuff, so I have a leasing background in the management world. I am now, but it's not my background. But doing things like this is where the kind of the relational fabric is where you see advancement kind of transpire, right? So it's things like this in property management, and I've been extremely involved in real estate council, APCAR, and ULI, and all these different things, and they become your industry contacts, right? Like you develop a network of people that if you have a dumb question that you need to ask, like you can ask a dumb question and not spend any relational capital asking someone that's your friend that wants to help you. So I think it's getting as involved as you can, and really making the best use of time. So what does that mean, right? You have a job, you need to do your job. You also have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, right? So how are you, and it's weird right now, I get it, but how are you using your meals to advance your career? How are you using your evenings to advance your career? Philanthropically, are you doing that in a way where you're working with people that can help you advance your career? It's just time is a resource, and you have to commit the time in it. And I think just being a part of things like this, and not it's kind of like church, right? There's a difference being a member of a church and coming to church and sitting in the back, right? So it's getting involved in things like this and like being intimately involved in it to where you're known as, I'm extremely involved in BOMA, and these are the committees I've served on, and this is how I've helped and served, and the next thing you know, everybody in town knows who you are, and that next job just got a whole heck of a lot easier to get.
Very true. I got involved at BOMA at a long time ago, and it's really served me well. So I have contacts, and then being a member of BOMA International and Executive Committee, it's amazing the people you meet, the wonderful people you meet, and I have a network, internationally. So it's, I've always got they call me the BOMA Bee. I won't say what exactly they call me at work, but that's what they call me. And
Along with some other things.
yeah, then there's that. But it's a wonderful organization. You get to know everybody. I know a lot of people locally, but it's also cool to have the relationships around the state, around the country, Canada, Newfoundland. Some of these people like Jim gets to travel around the world with them. So it's get involved in whatever your passion is. IRM's there, BOMA's there, IFMA, whatever your passion is. But when you get involved and you really work and you get on committees and you get to know people on a personal level. I speak a lot on the councils with the vendors as well, and you get to know them as friends, and I mean, that's who you use your friends, so it's a great network. So I always heavily recommend my BOMA and my BOMA International. So
Specifically on, for those who are wanting to advance, keeping in mind that the higher up you go, the more people you will be in charge of, right? You'll be leading them in charge of their career, their development. So anytime there's a leadership class, take advantage of it. I know BOMA does leadership classes, their books on leadership. I know as boring as that sounds, but just because you're good at property management or elevators doesn't mean you're going to be good at leadership. So we at Lunsford spend a lot of time. We actually have a book we are required to read right now, all of our leadership. It's leading with humility, because those are mistakes.
Scott read it?
Yes. But I mean, we just, just because you're a great manager doesn't mean that you're going to be a great, it's probably listening, a great leader. So those skill sets don't come natural to every one of us. So that's a little bit of time, that will go a long way.
I differentiate when we hire and look for leaders between IQ and EQ. So you got your intellectual quality and your emotional quality. Emotional quality is more important, in my opinion, than the intellectual quality that you bring to the table. And the higher up that you go in an organization, specifically, more so in a publicly traded company, the personalities change quite a bit. Leadership personalities tend to be more, type A or overbearing. You got to learn how to deal with those challenges. If you're a senior manager, senior real estate manager, and you're reporting to a VP, it might not be, as challenging. So the higher you go, you're dealing with much stronger personalities. You got to be able to adapt to that. But you have to have the emotional quality, and that's one of the things BOMA will help you is in getting that kind of training, because not every company. It's great that Paul Lunsford is asking you to read books. And that was going to be actually another answer of mine is read. And I've learned so much. I'm a junkie for leadership books, but I'm a junkie for the books that are written almost like biographies of company CEOs. I learned so much from reading those books. It's just little tidbits you learn from that. BOMA, I know, usually has an EQ training sessions where we'll bring outside speakers in. Those are fantastic too. You're not going to use everything they say. The little tidbits that you can gather from that, self, motivated type trainings is what will help you advance your career. So I'm big on EQ. Leaders have to have the right EQ. Is what we look for.
I want to take a second and poll the audience. How many of you have an RPA, CPM, CCIM, something like that? Okay. And how many in here are allied members? Well, I ask because the next question for you guys is, do you believe that the RPA or similar is necessary to advance in property management? We'll start with you, Hunter.
I think kind of back to what I said in the previous questions, like anything you can do to educate yourself and separate yourself is worth evaluating, right? I'm not going to say unequivocally you have to do this. It's like sometimes with people, in other industries where it's like you have to get your MBA to advance, right? Like there's no singular path forward, right? But anything you can do to differentiate yourself from a stack of resumes or from a panel of interviewees, like it's worth evaluating and then worth making an investment in.
when I hire and I look at resumes, that's one thing. I mean, I don't say, well, you have to hire a CPM or RPA or CCIM or whatever, but it does validate you and it does give you credibility. So it's always good to have those behind your name. And if you're looking, even the new designations for, I don't remember what the credentials are. C something. The new
CCM.
what is it? CCMD? Yes, CCMD. I helped write that stupid thing and I don't even remember. It's really good for, startups first. If you're looking for an assistant manager or a smaller building manager, I mean, it's a good designation to have, and anything like that does validate you. So And if you're looking for a big building that's really need an experienced person, I mean, you look at the CPM because it's like a master level dissertation. So, I mean, they definitely validate it.
I actually look at it, it's a prerequisite,
Do you?
right? So the first thing I did when I moved from being a public accountant to making a career move into operations for a commercial real estate company, I was an assistant property manager, took a step back in pay, but I wanted, so it was something I was passionate about. First thing I did is I got my RPA. Now, I don't think an RPA is going to help you to excel through the organization. I think it's the, your network and additional training you get outside of your RPA. But I think you need the RPA if you don't have an operations background. It's the best way to learn the building basics, how an HVAC system works, how electrical systems work. We all take the RPA. Like, I hated those courses, but they were the most impactful for me. They were the most impactful in my career, because now I can tell as an assistant property manager when a maintenance technician was not, necessarily being accurate in what he was telling you, and they're the ones setting the budgets for the building, so you can call BS on some of the things if you have that RPA. That, I see it as a prerequisite.
And if you're gonna lead people and you're asking your teams to get certified and you don't yourself have the certification, it's kind of like you're asking them to do something because you're quoting it's valuable, then each words, go ahead and get it. So you, at least you're understanding what they're going through and you being helpful to them.
And for those of you who don't know, if you take the BOMA Real Estate Foundations class, you can then test for the CPM, CMCP.
CMP.
CMP. So if you take that class, you can actually study and then test for that first designation. Shameless plug for BOMA.
There you go.
Can I ask a question for the other panelists? Is how do you guys view higher level college degrees?
That's a good one.
MBAs, master's degrees. Is that, do you place more value on that when you're looking at candidates?
We don't.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
really
For the
either.
property management side and engineering side, they really are ground up positions, right?
Yeah.
We will never hire a property manager straight out of college just because they went to college and took real estate classes, right? We hire them as admins, we train them the old fashioned way.
Yep.
So, just on that specific side, we don't.
I think public accounting background, I think, is something that we evaluate and are impressed by. I think back to what I should have said in my previous answer, I'll say now, is that to me it's a differentiator of like who's willing to do the work, right? Who's willing to put the time in to go get what they want. And if I keep coming back to interviews and resumes, right? If there's a dead tie on EQ, right? And you've got a tie break, well, someone has a designation, someone has a secondary degree, et cetera, it kind of makes it easier to push it one way or the other. It's certainly not a prerequisite to get into our business, and I think most don't get into the business. I think most people I've observed kind of fall into it, right? And then it becomes their career, but they get trained in the battlefield, right? But these designations and secondary degrees in education, to me, it's just on a resume. It's like, man, this person put the work in. They invested their own money. They took out a loan. They whatever to take steps forward, and that has to count for something.
My next question for you guys is similar to I say a three-part question, and it has to do with mentorship. And the question is, do you have a mentor, or have you had one? I'd like to say, have you had one, or do you have one now? And then do you have any advice on how to cultivate and continue that relationship?
Mentors are not going to solicit mentees, just ever, period. Successful people in our business are busy. But what I've observed is that they will always take a meeting with somebody that was bold enough to call them or reach out to make time for them. And so I think a couple things. If you're going to have a mentor, it probably doesn't need to be somebody you work for, right? And I know that probably you'll end up working for them at some point because they're going to love on you and invest in you, and then they'll be like, okay, come work with me now. But it's important to kind of separate the two, because you don't want to be bearing your soul to somebody that you're then going to have a year in review and compensation discussion with about your career and your advancement. doesn't create good outcomes. And then secondly, if you're going to take on a mentor, the Bible says faithful are the wounds of a friend and profuse are the kisses of the enemy. So don't go get a mentor that's going to kiss your butt, right? That doesn't do anybody any good. You need someone in your life that's going to faithfully wound you because they love you and they want to see you advance and do better and excel, right? So you really can't get better without, getting worked on a little bit, getting loved on, and getting challenged and rebuked and encouraged on where you need to get better. That's what mentorship is. So get mentors. I have mentors, but know what you're signing up for. If you're looking for someone to just have lunch with you once a month and tell you how great you're doing, that's just having lunch with a friend. That's not mentorship. And so you really need to be, when you go to ask for a mentor, you need to be explicit with what you're asking for. What you're asking for is them to sometimes not be very nice to you because they care about you.
And Hunter, at this stage in your career, do you have a mentor?
I do, yeah. So I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because my mentor is a guy named Chuck Anderson of Bay Dare Ventures, who I ended up ultimately going to work for, and they're our investment partners on a lot of what we do. And so, it's kind of funny because there's been times where I've been like, man, like, I really wish we didn't work together because there's some things I want to tell you, but, and so I do think it's important, but, there's several people. Bill Colley is somebody I have lunch with every 6 weeks who I just think a ton of and admire and respect, and we kind of are competitors, right? And so, if he says, hey, you should try this or you should do this, I'm willing to listen because he's achieved a lot of success. And so I think, yes, and I think mentors change over time, right? I think it's important to understand that your career is kind of seasonal just because, you have a mentor for a year or 2 years, like you can transition away and out of into something new and different as your career development needs change.
I've had 3 or 4 mentors in my life, and they do change over time. And they come in and out of your life as you need them. Like Joe Marchant was critical for my development into BOMA International circles, and he was a great friend and mentor and very wise. It's your time, you need to do this, don't miss this opportunity. So yeah, mentors do come in and out of your life, and they sometimes they happen naturally, sometimes they're, you kind of focus on one and say, I need to talk to them, and then you kind of develop them. It's not a real formal relationship, but we have formal relationships through we have a leaders program here, that we have formal mentor-mentee relationships, but and then you develop like longtime friends. Like we have breakfast with a bunch of leaders in the city that we get together and talk about, even though we're all competitors, we talk about our common issues and problems, and it's kind of a mentorship group as you would have it. So it's a very important thing to develop in your life. So, and if you don't know how to do it, you might want to get involved in something in, like a BOMA relationship that has a formal program, or in your company, and then think about how you can do it in your life, in your personal life.
So yes, I absolutely do have a mentor. And what they do for me is they do call me out on the crap, right? So again, as hurtful as it is to hear those things, there are things that I know come out of love, right? And they're always trying to push me to be better. They've got a program for me. It's called Build a Better American. Every year I have to go in and this year, these are the 3 things that I have to do. And it's uncomfortable, right? Because everyone wants to hear they're not perfect. So yes, please, I would definitely encourage, and I would encourage it to be someone above your level, right? You're wanting, because that's what, if you're aiming toward being a higher level, because what I like about them is I learn from their failures, right? They've done my exact job. And so tell me everything that you tried and was a major bomb, right? So it's just that above your level would be my recommendation, and to be that conflict, as Kerry had said, I'll also have my circles of long-term friends, right, that are within BOMA, but it's above and beyond BOMA. These are people I've been with for 25 years, because you do need a group that you can vent to, right? Because you want to vent privately so you don't vent openly. You need someone that you can, okay, oh my gosh, this happened, and you know that it's not going to go anywhere, right? Because people in the same industry are going to give advice because they've been
mentorship is, I can't stress how critical it is. If you don't have, you need to have a mentor outside of who you work for. I was fortunate to work for two companies, our current company, Welltower, and Duke Realty, that had very strong mentorship programs. And it's okay to have different mentors. And when you go through programs like that, your mentor will change every year. Most times it'll change every year, and that's good because now you're getting feedback from different leaders within that organization instead of just latching onto one mentor for a long period of time, which isn't bad either. You know, you do need a mentor. And then only because I work for a publicly traded company now, you actually will eventually get executive coaches. So now I actually have to pay for somebody to tell me, help me, which is okay. I kind of say it, but that is okay. There are resources you can pay for if your company doesn't offer you mentorship opportunities, and if you just don't have that network to find somebody, you can get career coaches or you can get executive coaches. And so once you rise to certain levels in the organization, you'll be required and it'll be expected that you get an executive coach so you can learn how to, do things you haven't been exposed to yet, and how to work on your emotional, quality and things like that. And I have to put a plug in for BOMA because one of the programs that they created last year that I was most excited about was the BOMA mentorship program. And I'm not sure how many BOMA chapters around the country have that, but if you haven't gone through the BOMA mentorship program, I was fortunate to be a mentor in the first year they did it. This year it was put on pause because of COVID. Courtney, I know you went through it, and a couple others. It's a great program and a very inexpensive, if not free way to get a mentor in the industry. So leverage that opportunity.
I have just two more questions, and then we'll go to taking questions from the audience. And the next question, I'm just going to throw it out there for those who want to answer. But what helps an employee stand out to you? And what is the best piece of advice you'd give to someone who wants to be seen?
I think we kind of already talked about it, but you've got to raise your hand. You've got to volunteer for extra work to help other team members when they're in need, right? That helps. The pandemic, we've had a lot of people just reach out to not only help their team, but they're helping other teams. Take advantage of any kind of education that your company offers. If they offer to pay for your RPA, you turn it down, that speaks volumes to me, of how much you're willing to do. Get involved at work, right? Participate in everything. If they've got holiday parties, you need to be there. If they're doing volunteer work as a group, you need to be there, be seen. We want people who want to be a part of our culture, right? So if our company, they're offering things, they're doing things, we expect leaders, they're going to have to be help brand HLC, and so you've got to put in the extra work and participate.
And try not to stand out in a negative way. Don't be always be the group that has the problems. Don't be the group that there's always issues going on. There's always something, like she said, don't be the drama group.
I think one thing that's really important is for people to raise their hand when they're in over their head.
True.
And just to say, I need help, or I'm unsure, or I'd love for you to weigh in on this. And then secondly, the paddle like a duck saying, right? It's like you got to be swimming hard like crazy underneath the water, but you got to be calm, cool, and collected above the surface, right? And in our business, something bad happens just about every day, right? If not every week, right? Something that you didn't see coming is coming. And, the way that we respond is how excellence is defined in our business. So I just think those two things, raising your hand when you need help and, being calm, but moving quick when things are not going the way they're supposed to. Yeah.
I think what I'll do now is just open it up for audience questions, and then I'll end it with my final question. So if you have a question for our panel, raise your hand and let us hear.
I'm an allied member, support BOMA, appreciate you guys being there. So I do have just a different kind of question. All the hard work that you guys put in, and being on the opposite side, I recognize it, therefore I'm an allied member. So I wonder, do you find there is a place in your career where there's no more room to grow with that company, it's time to look outside your company?
I'm a bad person to ask.
No, that absolutely yes. Yeah, you'll know when it's time to look for other opportunities. And again, it's setting those goals, it's being focused on what you want to do with your career. And if you've reached your ceiling at your current company, and you don't feel challenged anymore, absolutely, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's my opinion on that.
And certainly, it certainly expedites the process, right? Courtney, cover your ears, but you know, sometimes leaders need to be refocused on how excellent their employees are if they have a minute to think about life without them, right? And you know, unfortunately, sometimes you gotta move on to advance, and sometimes you come right back to where you came from with a different title and a different comp structure, right? You know, after you prove that you can do it somewhere else. So I think certainly there are exceptions to the rule, but most have had to move around a few places to kind of ultimately get to where they want to go.
And I've even recommended to other people that we had someone that wanted to move up and there was nowhere for them to go. And I recommended that they leave, and they became an allied member, and they're just killing it now. So sometimes it depends on what your passion is and what you're good at.
Timing.
And timing, yeah.
And there's no, it's not a negative when an employee leaves for a better opportunity for themselves and for their family. So it doesn't have to be, and your employees leave a negative light. You know, I actually left and came back. I was gone a year. And, you know, they did recognize when I was gone, to your point, oh my God. But, you know, I didn't leave, I didn't burn bridges, right? So that's kind of one of my final thoughts is just, you know, you got to be professional about it. And, there's no need to insult the company, insult your boss just because an opportunity wasn't there at the time. Companies' movement and yours don't always align, and there's nothing wrong with that. So just be respectful and make your decision with grace.
Any other questions?
I think it was a couple of years back in one of the panels, they said the difference between men and women is that women, when they are ready for promotion, they feel like they're absolutely qualified to take that next step. And men, sorry, you don't fake it till they make it, but they're more willing to go ahead and say, oh, I can do that, and kind of figure it out as they go. I would be interested now that we have men on the panel to see the women, when you got to that level, did you feel like, oh, I've definitely put in my time, you know, I'm completely qualified, or, you know, was there any hesitation? Kind of, I just would be interested to see the differences. I mean, now that we have men here, let's talk about it.
Come on, Ryan.
Well, so to kind of address your question, because I don't know if it's going to answer it or not, but a good leader that you might report to will know when somebody is ready for the next step. And it doesn't matter, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if it's a, you know, female, male, white, black, Hispanic. I work for a publicly traded company. Diversity is very, very important to our company. And one of the things that our company's proud of is we have 90% of our board of directors are minorities, and 60% of them are female board of directors. And those are great mentors to have as a male in the industry, is a board, you know, a board of director who is a female who has led, you know, has been in a leadership position. Females bring different skill sets to the table than men, same with different races. And to truly be great at your business, you have to have input from all of you. You have to have a diverse leadership team. So I'm fortunate right now, I don't have as much, well, actually, we probably do actually have a lot of racial diversity. I want to say Welltower's outpatient medical business, which is the business that I run, we are probably 30% racially diverse, but gender diversity is more heavily weighted towards female than male, but mainly because I think it's a service business. You know, we are, you know, even though we own real estate, we're a service company. We have to service that real estate. And of our 4 VPs that I have that run each region of our division, 2 of them are female, 2 are men. and one is, racially diverse. So it helps me as a leader get different opinions on different situations, because everyone's going to have a different way of dealing with a problem.
Ryan, when you had your last, say, couple of promotional opportunities, did you personally feel like you were 100% ready to go, or did you recognize that you had some growing to do?
I felt like I was ready. One of the hurdles, obstacles, and I mentioned it earlier, is back in my early 30s, maybe it was late 20s, I was ready to become, I wanted to become a vice president of property management. I got looked over twice for that role, but I felt like I was ready. And that's why I mentioned, endurance, is I didn't let that set me back, but I did feel like I was ready for that role. I would tell you right now, if I'm asked to be CEO of Welltower, I'm not ready. I don't feel ready for that yet, but now I have an executive coach who is going to help me, understand what it's going to take to run a $30 billion company. So, for the record, I don't want to be CEO of Welltower, but I still have to be ready, right? I still have to be ready for that position. And I, executive level would be my next step, which I would feel comfortable. I can be an executive VP, but CEO, chief operating officer, that's, I'm looking kind of 2 steps ahead and trying to prepare for that at some point in the future.
Back to your original question, I think something I've observed, and I think it's a little bit of a gender disparity, is I've observed that males want to have the comp title conversation more regularly than I've observed that females do. And I think some of that's just feigned arrogance of my ego and I've got to advance. So what I would say is, the glass ceiling really can't break unless you bang on it a little bit, right? And so when I first started in the business, Blair Oden at CBRE hired me, and I'm going to curse and you have to bleep me out, but he said, the reason I'm hiring you is because you're a respectful pain in the ass. And every Thursday at 1 p.m., I was a senior at Baylor, every Thursday at 1 p.m. I called and said, hey, Mr. Oden, I'll be in Dallas tomorrow. I wasn't going to be in Dallas tomorrow, but I acted like I was. Can I come meet with you? And he finally offered me a job, right? And so now I did it consistently. I wasn't weird about it. I wasn't, I did it at the same time every week, so it's kind of predictable, right? And the thing is, you talk about your career advancement, right? You can't have a conversation with your boss every week. You can't probably have a conversation with your boss every month, but probably once a quarter, you should solicit a sit down and say, hey, give me some feedback. What can I be doing? How can I advance? What do I need to be working on? Where do I need to get sharp? And I also think that the world is waking up to the fact that we have a diversity issue, right? That on the leasing side, if we go pitch leasing, right, who we're pitching to, the board we're pitching to, looks different than it did 10 years ago. A tenant making a lease decision, the way that decision is made, it used to be, well, we're going to office wherever the CEO lives. We're going to office as close to the CEO's house now. I think that's universally untrue for most office tenants today, because they have a committee of people that are going to make decisions on behalf of a larger body of people, right? So I think the timing's great, but you gotta ask for the order, right? I think the stage is set, the table is set, but you still gotta, when given the opportunity, ask what you're looking for.
Thanks, Hunter. Let's do this. Let's take one more question before we wrap up. So anyone else have a question? I know you do.
Women are typically quiet, like we've discussed, right? They
Yeah.
don't speak up. What are you all doing in your leadership roles to instead of having to raise my hand, we notice that there's some leadership quality in a person and you grab their hand and pull them up?
We do that quite often. I mean, and we groom them, and we say, next meeting, I'm calling on you. Or what we do is we have regularly scheduled meetings with all our managers, and we'll give a few of them topics. Hey, you're gonna talk about this next time. Give them 30 days so they can stress over it and work it up. And then you call them a week or two before and ask if they're ready, and you just kind of groom them a little bit. The more you speak in front of people, the more comfortable you'll be. When I was getting ready to be Dallas BOMA president, I was mortified and terrified of speaking in front of 300-400 people. And then I was on a committee and I was at BOMA International, and they stuck me in front of 1,500 people. and that'll scare the bejesus out of you. And after that, 200-300 people is nothing, because, so you just get them comfortable in speaking and speaking up. And the same thing with getting on committees. You learn, you sit in the committee and you sit there for a couple of years, and then the next year, maybe you'll be a vice chair and you get to see how to run a meeting and talk a little bit. And then when you chair a meeting, you've got to run it. You've got to take leadership of it, and you learn how to become a leader that way. I've recommended to a lot of our younger managers to get involved in committees and that's how you become a leader, is getting comfortable in your own skin. So.
Same thing. I've got 9 VPs that report to me, and 6 of those are women, right? So their requirements are the exact same requirements of my male leaders that we have. And part of their bonus program is they've got to do certain things, like do a lunch and learn for us. They've got to present certain things to our leadership group. So it's just giving them a structured, because most women aren't going to. I shouldn't say that. Some women don't want to challenge themselves, right? They're going to stay in their comfort zone. They're going to stay right here. So I just have to push them and tie that to their financial reward, and it's amazing. But just having a structure with it. Yeah, I'm in the property management industry. We're primarily women, women property managers and women accounting, and yeah, I've got to.
We've created diversity groups within Welltower that will give somebody who might not feel comfortable speaking up a group for them to join of like-minded, or so we have a working mothers group, we have an African American group, we have a veterans group, we have an LGBTQ group. We have all these different groups that you can join. So that could be an idea that you use if you don't feel comfortable speaking up. Suggest the idea at your corporation and create that group that you feel comfortable with, and that'll help you get out of your comfort zone and raise your hand, because now you're doing it on behalf of the group, not necessarily you. And so now you're not putting your boss in the corner who you might not think is managing you properly. So there's just different ways you can, I guess, approach a situation like that.
People need to be given the opportunity to fail, right? So I know that doesn't sound great, but at the end of the day, you have to put our teammates in a position where they have the ball in their hands, right? And they're given the opportunity to succeed or not. And there's little things throughout the day, throughout the week that I think we do, but we can do a better job of just putting our teammates in a position to shine. I think one thing we've done is Courtney, we have a call every Tuesday with our partners on the project that she manages, and she leads the call. She starts the call. It's a leasing call, but we don't talk about leasing until we've talked about the operational update, what's going on with ABC, XYZ, and I am not the subject matter expert on that, so it is not my report to give. It's hers. And so that's a little thing, but giving people opportunities like that so they find a voice, and then when they are given the mic, when they are given the opportunity, they're ready, I think is something we're trying to do, but we can obviously always do a lot better.
Yeah, something else that we do too, and I'll steal this one from, or expand on what Kerry said, is we'll create a committee to help solve a bigger system-wide problem. And if you're asked to be on a committee, that's opening up the opportunity for you to lead. And as a leader, I'm looking at, all right, how did this person step up when asked to join the committee and do this work to create, to create a solution for a bigger system-wide problem? We use committees quite a bit at Welltower to see who is ready for the next level and can take a future leadership position at Welltower. I think that's a good use of special project.
Well, I want to ask the last question of the morning before I turn it over to Courtney. And that question is, what is one top piece of advice that you would give to the audience for those who want to break through to the next level? And I'll start with Ryan, and we'll just work our way back up to Hunter.
Never stop asking questions. Always be inquisitive. I judge how much somebody knows by the type of questions they ask. So if I have somebody who I'm managing that's not asking questions, that is a big red flag for me. That means they don't know what they're doing. If I have somebody who I'm managing that is is constantly asking questions. That gives me as a leader a gauge on what they do and don't know and how I can better manage that person. Always be inquisitive. You're never the smartest person in the room. I still ask questions constantly of people above and below. Don't be afraid. Continue to ask questions. Continue to learn. Life is a constant, accumulation of knowledge. Continue learning. Yeah.
Mine would be everything's evaluated, right? Everything. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you dress, the friends you hang out with, and how you behave at the BOMA events, how you treat people. So we're looking for a whole package at an executive level, right? Not just you're an expert at, property management. So just keep in mind, what you do in your free time, what you do volunteer. Are you involved in BOMA, involved in your companies? Just everything is evaluated. Are you late to meetings? Are you on time? Do you participate in meetings? Or do you sit in the back and play on your phone? So I think that's not just real estate specific, that's just kind of everything. We do know this, the good and the bad, so just keep that in mind.
I would say not only get involved, but when you do get involved, I've hired more people from committees that I've been on in BOMA, and it's because I've worked with somebody and it's like, wow, they really step up. They said they were going to do something, they did it, they showed up. And then there's other people that I've seen that they say they want to do all this and then they drop the ball completely. So, and that's a very, very negative. And so get involved, but when you are involved, be present and get it done. And be really good at it.
And I will piggyback off of that. We've had resumes come through, and I knew how they behaved on a committee, and they quickly, that resume got thrown in the trash. So, your attitude and how you behave at BOMA and out in the public, it can affect you. So just keep that in mind. We want good people.
Raise your hand. Ask for more.
Yep.
Take on more, but also raise your hand when you need help. Just raise your hand.
Well, Hunter, Kerry, Mary, Ryan, we want to thank you this morning for being such a great.
All right, so that completes our panel. I hope you guys enjoyed the program and received something out of it. Feel free to mingle for a few more minutes before you head out. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Allied Universal, America's Corporate Building Maintenance, and Texas Roof Management. And also, I did forget to thank you, Colleen and Taylor. Please remember to thank the BOMA staff. They're awesome. So I think we take them for granted sometimes. So thank you guys again, and stay safe out there. Thanks. Oh, and ticket parking validations. We're working on it.
Yes, is Maria here? Was Maria coming down?
Pam's email said she was supposed to get some.
Okay, you should be good. The garage is, if you got here, in the past, I think it's 2.5 hours, it's free. And then after that, I think it's like $5. Maria was supposed to be down here. So you guys, if y'all want to wait a second, I can go get Maria. If anyone's been here more than 2.5 hours,
we should be good.
Yeah, I think it's 2 or 3 hours. So.
I can call Maria.
Yeah.
Are we off Zoom yet? I have people that are on the Zoom that are texting me.
Oh. Hunter, it's a pleasure to meet you.
They call me, yes, I need to wait.